everybody hear that? Hi. All right. Thanks so much again for joining us here today. We will be covering Lesson 4 of Targeted Individual Combat Training, and uh, we will be discussing the project-based learning strategy, tracking triggers and responses with the Poli-Si method. So I'm going to give it on over to Jamie Rice to kick things off for us.
Hi guys, welcome back. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are. So this is TI Counterterrorism Operations Training number 4. So the past 3 sessions, we discussed observer intelligence, present moment self-awareness, developing the senses, upgrading cognitive processing, releasing unconscious blocks, and developing a 0-point baseline calm nervous system response. The homework for session 3 was to begin the process of recognizing triggers and correlate the physiological state with your reported experiences to help you identify internal stress responses and external causation. We asked you to start tracking stress responses through the development of sensory awareness to help create access points for working through cognitive dissonance programming, polarized distortions, default defense mechanisms, and hardwired beliefs that connect to your autonomous fight, flight, fawn, freeze survival responses. We must be able to name the stressors and threats that unconsciously hijack clear thinking and authentic action to debug the nervous system, reconcile mental conflicts, and release the contradictory beliefs and behaviors that induce fraud responses. So in operations training number 4, our focus is developing Poli-Si's non-dual somatic dialectic for our self-governing defense and response model of thought. This is a 4-week project-based study where we build the foundations for mind, brain, heart, nervous system, free will coherence. The entry point for developing self-inquiry and sensory awareness is achieved through non-judgment and active listening. So the project title is Building a Trigger and Response Journal System. The overview is, again, it'll be a 4-week project. You'll develop a personalized trigger and response journal system to track emotional, physical, and environmental triggers and their corresponding nervous system responses. Using the Poli-Si's governing and defense model, you will apply sensory awareness, self-inquiry, and cognitive framework. They are input, processing, output, probing, sensing, categorizing, and responding, and choice program action to identify patterns, release cognitive distortions, and align with your authenticity. Our goal overall is to map qualities and actions to the 7 main chakras as we reroute conscious energy through decision-making and conflict resolution formulas. While the focus is on building clear and articulate thought and intention to develop free will choice and cognitive processes to release distortions. This project will empower you to counter cognitive warfare, mind control, and electronic harassment by achieving 0-point nervous system baseline for reclaiming authenticity. So by the end of the project, you will have a journaling system where you log triggers and responses systematically, perform sensory scans to distinguish internal physiological from external environmental stimuli, apply the IPO, PSCR, and CPA to analyze and reframe triggers, identify and release survival responses, fight, flight, freeze, fawn, through non-judgment self-inquiry and non-absolute thinking. Develop a personalized strategy for achieving a fraud-free 0-point nervous system response as you reflect on your progress and refine your approach to align with organic life systems. So you're going to have the PDF, and everything is noted in there. So I can go over everything or open up for questions now, because Melissa's going to take us through a guided journey on how we implement these strategies. Melissa?
Okay. And if this would be a good time to ask any questions that pertaining to today's lesson or any questions that you have in general from the previous 3 lessons. So let's just, afford, time to connect. Any questions, comments?
This is I just want to comment and gratitude and thank you for this program. And could you put things in Telegram as well? I'm having issues with my phone and emails won't download PDFs, things like that, which is not your fault. It's the stuff we have. But no judgment. If you could put it in Telegram, everything as well. I know it's double work, and I apologize, but I'm grateful to you.
Yes, we will definitely get it in the Telegram chat.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate you. My gratitude to you, Melissa, and my gratitude to you, Jamie. And that's all. God bless you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you joining today. Someone else had a question?
Hello. Yes, my name is Jay, and it's my first time on the call. I sent you guys an email and got the ID. So I'm just learning and finding out. It seems like you guys have like a comprehensive training program to help us deal with this mentally, physically, spiritually. So it's very interesting to me. And I guess that's my question, is just to understand what you guys are offering. Just if you could just summarize that for me, just because I just got on here, please.
So we are offering a defense and response model of thought where we become very clear as to what our consciousness is aligned with. Basically, we're learning how consciousness functions in time, multidimensionally through a physics engine. We're learning the language of energy.
Cool. Very cool. Yes.
Yes, and as we know, these targeting programs are they're trying to, do mind control along with a plethora of their, symptoms that are related to a targeted individual and the tactics that they use. So this is building out a new thinking, system and connecting. It's just really, it's a beautiful journey in all the lessons. I deeply encourage you to review the first 3 lessons because they build up. So you're learning, you've got your foundation, which is in lesson 1, and then you build up into it, and it leads into it. So when you have time, just review those, and in the email that I sent out yesterday, it has the link to the previous 3 along with the documentation, so that'll help you as well.
Yeah,
that's
so
great.
we have,
I have that.
So we
I
have
got the email.
So we have an overall counterterrorism plan, direct action plan. It's the first one. We also have a mission guide, and then we have the 2 workshops that we did. So I'm pulling from the original blueprint and creating lessons to try to break it down and take it into chunks. So this plan, there's 4 processes that we use and 1 template. Okay. We're building the architecture for mind, brain, heart, nervous system, free will coherence through these processes. We're rerouting consciousness through conscious energy instead of automatic responses. So basically, we're bringing the conscious mind online, balancing between the conscious, subconscious, and collective unconscious algorithms.
Excellent. Excellent words. Excellent concept. Conscious living, right? In 2 words. Conscious thinking.
Coincidentally, this is how consciousness functions. I've had multiple people contact me and say, I've been doing this. I'm like, of course you have, because this is the process that you're going to learn. I've just been hyper-vigilant over 20 years, developed multidimensional perception, hyperspatial awareness. I'm trying to bring you guys into your senses because the conscious mind is trapped below your senses. So we have to pull them up, and the best way to do that is through the nervous system. This is advanced training, but given the topic and what we're up against, this is throwing a life raft into the water to pull you up. This process is going to be very difficult. It's rewarding, but it's difficult. It's going to bring up things you didn't even know. You're going to feel anxiety, depression, but it's good. We have to get it out. It's like regurgitating an illness. We have to get it out.
Yeah, transformative, right? There's always some uncomfortable things that go with changing and transforming and moving, to newer creation of yourselves. Is that Andrea speaking?
No.
Jamie Rice.
No.
She's the author and creator of the series.
Okay, great. Jamie and Melissa, nice to meet you guys. That's awesome, and I really like what I'm hearing. I believe that human beings have a lot of untapped potential in our mind, psychic abilities, everything you mentioned, really, the energetic matrix.
This is going to bring it all online. You're going to find out who you are, where you came from, why you're here, and what your purpose is, as we simultaneously dismantle corrupt systems.
I got
and this is what they don't want us to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that they don't want us to know about our true power and our true potential. So this is really good to hear. Just one more quick question. So this is like you've got this down in PDFs, and I can find that as well?
Yes. I did attach two in the most recent email. We also have a Telegram chat group that you can ask questions live. Since you are first time, if there's any other first time people that have joined the call today, Jamie does offer a free hour session over the telephone. So Jay, just take advantage of that. I will put the email for Jamie in the chat here. It's Quantum Reality Studies at, I always get it wrong. Is it Yahoo?
Yahoo.com.
Yeah, okay, because I always mix it up with Gmail, but let me put it in the chat right quick.
Okay, I'm going to write that down. Thanks.
All right. Anyone else have a question or a comment or anything that they'd like to share as they've worked through the previous lessons? Okay, are we ready to get started with the guided meditation for today?
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh, now yes, I can.
Oh, okay. My name is Janet. I'm new, and so I will go back and review the previous, courses that you guys have. I'm excited to be here and hope to communicate with everyone soon.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Janet, for joining. I think this is the way for us to truly combat these mind control programs. We have to tap into, our consciousness, and we've got to tap into a higher power, and we have to go inward to release, because those are where the hooks and the drains are within us, that these systems are very predatory, and they prey upon those, our pain, our trauma, our triggers, our emotional baggage that we carry around with it. And like Jamie said, some of it we are cognizant of. Some of it is just laying trapped that we need to release and let it go. And sometimes, we're in human nature, those painful things, we try to suppress it and keep it under wraps, but that's where we have to go digging. We're like, data mining, per se, in this whole process, in releasing all of these things and letting it come up and sitting with it in a non-judgment way, being the observer of what comes to mind. And these techniques in the previous lessons as well, they really do tap in to, you get to listen and feel and get picture flashes. These are all the clues and your breadcrumbs to follow to your own liberation and expansion. And once you try to expand, then the forces are going to come at you because you're on the right track. So it's persistent work, and it's rewarding, and it's you're just learning to think and process and respond in a constructive way, a liberating way. So did someone else have a question or comment?
Thank you.
So
Okay.
I know we've talked about this before, that AI thinks what you think and believes what you believe. So this is why we really have to build the authentic responses. Otherwise, you're going to be assimilated within the simulation. So if I could just go over quickly a couple of things, setting up the journal.
Okay.
Everything's in the PDF, but so this is a sample journal. You will have a date and time where you record your trigger or response for pattern tracking. You're going to note your trigger type, categorize the emotional response, for example, anger, fear, and correlate any physical pain or fatigue with environmental factors such as noise or a crowded space. So you'll have a trigger description, detail the specific stimuli or event, like loud argument nearby or sudden headache. Sensory scans, note sensory inputs, sight, sound, touch, smell, taste, distinguish internal physiological versus external. Nervous system responses, identify the response as fight, flight, fawn, freeze, and correlate the physical and mental sensations, example, racing heart, or disassociation. So this is building the architecture for mind, brain, heart, nervous system, free will, coherence through active listening. So like IPO, input processing output, is an analysis process. So the question would be, what is this initial stimuli or perception? The process will be, how did my mind and body interpret and react to the input? The output is going to be your behavior or your response as a result of your emotional state. The processing, sensing, categorizing, responding framework is where you're going to perceive like what you noticed about your trigger, where you felt it in your body, what was automatic, what was a conscious choice, how you reacted or feel as a result of it. And then choice program action is where you start exercising your free will and change your cognition. What thoughts or beliefs surfaced, reconfigure those. How did your perception shape your response? What action or inaction followed? And was it aligned with authenticity? So again, you have everything. This is cumbersome, this work, very cumbersome. So Melissa's going to give us an example of how this works. If you can't think of something that she's going to ask you about, what you want to work through in this meditation, I would go ahead and work with like a loud response that sparked a nervous system response, like a loud noise or chainsaw running in the background, sirens, things that created a chaotic state.
Okay, so we're going to start the meditation now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, this is in the PDF that you'll receive, and you will get all of a summary of everything that Jamie was stating at the beginning of the call, but toward the end of the guide, you will see the developing the Poli-Si self-governing, active learning, defense, and response model of thought for processing triggers with IPO and CPA. So the first thing that I ask is take a moment and choose a trigger to focus on. For example, a recent moment of stress, anxiety, or discomfort. And if nothing comes to mind, just use the car horn as your, example or something of that nature. So I'm going to just pause for a minute and just choose the trigger to focus on. Okay, let's get started. So first, begin by closing your eyes or softening your gaze if that feels more comfortable. And take a very deep breath in through your nose, feeling your chest and belly expand. And exhale slowly through your mouth, letting go of any tension. So inhale again, slowly. The air is filling your chest, expanding your belly. And exhale, releasing the busyness and the stress of the week, today. Okay, we're going to do it one more time. Inhale deeply. Go a little bit further than you did the last time. And then exhale, gently feeling your body settle into this moment. Now I ask that you notice the points where your body connects with the chair, floor, surface beneath you. Feel this support holding you up. If you're holding an object, gently trace its texture with your fingers, grounding yourself in its presence. Let your breath find a natural rhythm, slow and steady. With each exhale, imagine sinking a little deeper into calm, knowing that this is a safe space to explore and heal. So now let's begin with a sensory scan to awaken your awareness and connect with your trigger. Without judgment, notice what's present in your senses. What do you hear? Perhaps the hum of a fan, a distant sound, or the quiet of the room. Just observe. What do you feel? The texture of your clothing, the temperature of the air, or the rhythm of your breath? If your eyes are open, what do you see? Colors, shapes, or soft light? If your eyes are closed, notice the darkness or any images in your mind. Are there any smells or tastes present? Simply mentally note them. As you scan, distinguish between internal sensations, like your heartbeat or a tingling in your hands, any external stimuli like sounds or air on your skin. There's no need to change anything, just observe with curiosity. Now, gently bring to mind a recent trigger. A moment when you felt a strong emotional physical, or environmental response. It might be a stressful conversation or a sudden discomfort. If nothing specific comes up, just imagine a loud sound like a car horn startling at you. Picture the moment clearly, where you were, what happened, and how did your body and mind react. Hold this trigger lightly in your awareness, trusting you are safe to explore it here. Now let's process this trigger using the IPO framework. And IPO is input, processing, output. Settle deeper into your breath, and let's begin. First, we're going to start with input. Focus on the initial stimulus, the spark that set off your reaction, and the trigger that you identified. What was it? For example, if it's the loud car horn, or for your trigger, perhaps it was a sharp word, a physical sensation, or something in your environment. Just see it clearly, picture it in your mind. What sensory details stand out? Was it a sound, a sight, a feeling? Whisper to yourself, this was the input, and let it rest in your awareness. Now we're going into process. Now explore how your mind and body interpreted this input. What thoughts and emotions arose? Did your heart race, your muscles tense or tighten? Or did your mind jump to a conclusion? For the car horn, maybe your thought is something wrong? Or you felt a surge of fear. For the trigger you identified, notice the story your mind told you. Was it a survival response, like fight, flight, freeze, or fawn? And without judgment, say to yourself, this is how I processed it. Imagine these thoughts and sensations as clouds passing through your mind. They're not fixed and they're not permanent. So now we're going to move into output. Finally, consider the result, your behavior or emotional state. Did you freeze, like with a car horn, or react in a way like snapping, withdrawing, or feeling overwhelmed? For your trigger, what did you do or feel afterward? See this output as the natural result of the input and process, not as good or bad. And say softly, this was my output. Let this understanding settle, knowing you're gaining clarity. And take a deep breath in and exhale gently, releasing any tension from doing this exploration. You're doing beautifully, observing your experience with courage and care. Now let's deepen our understanding with the CPA framework, which CPA is choice, program, action. Stay relaxed, breathing gently as we move through this. And we're going to start out with choice and cognition. We need to bring your attention to the thoughts or beliefs that surfaced during the trigger. What did your mind say? For the car horn example, that thoughts like something bad is happening or I'm not safe might have appeared. For your trigger, what beliefs or assumptions came up? Notice if these thoughts feel absolute, like always or never, or if they exaggerate, like assuming the worst. Without judging, say to yourself, these are my thoughts. And imagine placing these thoughts on a leaf, letting them flow down a gentle stream. And these thoughts, they're softening their grip on you. They are just flowing and gently moving away from you. Now we're going to move into program and perception. Reflect on how you perceived the trigger. How did your interpretation shape your response to it? For the car horn example, you might have seen it as a threat, which amplified fear within you. For the trigger that you identified, did your perception align with reality, or was it colored by stress, past experiences, or external pressures? Whisper to yourself, this is how I perceived it. And visualize your perception as a lens you can adjust. It's kind of like a microscope, and you're focusing in. You can focus in on that slide. You can make adjustments, bringing reality into a clearer focus. So now we're going to move into action. Finally, consider the action you took or didn't take. For the car horn example, maybe you froze and checked the window. For your trigger that you identified, did you act automatically, like a survival response, or with intention? Ask yourself, did this action reflect my authentic self? Picture a more aligned action, perhaps pausing, breathing, and responding calmly. Say, I can choose my actions. And feel the empowerment of knowing you can move toward authenticity. Breathe deeply and exhale, letting go of lingering intensity. You're reclaiming clarity and control, step by step. The next steps will be about releasing and reframing we are going to release distortions and move toward a 0-point nervous system, a state of calm, fraud-free authenticity. Now I ask that you bring to mind any cognitive distortions you noticed, like catastrophizing or absolute thinking. For the car horn example, it might be something bad is happening. For your trigger, identify one thought that feels exaggerated or unhelpful to you. Now, we're going to reframe it with a balanced, gentle truth. For example, replace something bad is happening with, this is likely a normal sound and I'm safe. For your trigger that you identified, create a reframe that feels true and grounding. Say it softly to yourself, letting it sink in. Repeat it several times to yourself to integrate it, and how many times you need to say it. For example, you can say, I am safe, loved, and supported in the ever-present now moment through my authenticity. To release the physical and emotional charge, imagine a warm golden light flowing through your body. With each inhale, this light fills your chest, soothing your heart. With each exhale, release tension, fear, or survival energy. Picture it dissolving like mist in the morning sun. And continue breathing. You're inhaling the light and you're exhaling the tension. Feel your nervous system softening, moving toward neutrality. Now affirm to yourself, I am present, I am safe, I am authentic. Let these words anchor you in this moment. And keep breathing in with the light, exhaling tension. As we near the end, set a small intentional goal for responding to similar triggers in the future. For the car horn example, it might be, I'll pause, take 3 deep breaths, and check my surroundings calmly. For the trigger you identified, visualize yourself responding with presence and ease. What's one step you can take to stay grounded and authentic? Now hold this goal in your heart, knowing you're building strength with each practice. Take a final deep breath in, feeling gratitude for your courage and your curiosity, and exhale, releasing any remaining weight. And when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and toes, gently bringing awareness back to your body. And open your eyes if they were closed, or sharpen your gaze, returning to the space around you. You've completed a powerful journey to activate self-inquiry and healing. If you feel called to, jot down any insights and note them in your journal, noting how the IPO and the CPA process helped you process your triggers and move toward a 0-point neutral state. And when you're ready, and if you would like to share anything that came to mind or came up during the process, we would love to hear it. I think this process, what comes up to me is you'll get to the point where you are feeling very charged in a moment. You might have, like for me, sometimes it would be like a wave that comes over, the gut is tightening, the body is tensing, and that's when I catch myself, using these processes of going, okay, what just happened right before that? What has created this response and reaction within me? And is this something that is just a pattern of mine to protect myself? I mean, you will begin to be able to see these and catch them in the moment and get to the point where you are going through the process like it's second nature for you. And it's amazing how much this type of work teaches you about how your body and your mind are trying to protect you. And, you go into that freeze and that survival mode. And then you've got to unwind it. You will be able to recognize these things, and it will help you when you may perceive a threat or danger that is not there. You will become very rational. And again, being that non-judgment observer of these triggers that come up as a result of this experience and things that are just hiding within, you have to realize that the subconscious has been driving the bus, and we're acting in consciousness and authenticity and dissecting into these responses that we have. Jamie, would you like to add anything?
So as targeted individuals, we're buried under complexity, uncertainty, and vulnerability. And by doing this work, we accomplish many things. For example, signaling. You're going to be diving into this as you do the work. So, for example, signaling represents the transmission of information. It could be a color, sound, smell, or some type of experience that reminds you of something. For example, my son and his friends were with a boy, and a motorcycle came up and hit his friend. He flew up in the air, was flown to shock trauma. Well, he was wearing an orange shirt. So we've realized that orange is a signal that takes him back to that response. So for me, I've done a lot of healing work. I went back to a time where I was a small child and I was stepping off of the step, but it was too big, so it threw me for a loop. So it started a fear of heights. And then my father used to take me and pretend he was going to throw me over this waterfall. So my whole life I've carried that. Anytime I go near like a cliff or a waterfall, I always stand back because my nervous system's on high alert. because he threw me into a nervous system response when he did that. He was only joking, of course, but it didn't feel like that. So signaling is a huge, like, you don't realize how much signaling is going on. It could just be a commercial, you know, those commercials about the kids with cancer. You know, as soon as that comes up, you're like, oh, you know. So we have to counter all of those things, but we'll build the awareness for all of that in time.
Those are very good signaling examples. It's amazing how far back some of this can go. It's recorded within you. So these regulatory systems take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And
so the first time I experienced humiliation, I had a freeze response. I backtracked. And from that freeze response developed into many, many lifelong distortions that I tracked back to that one event. So it could just be as soon as you feel an energy from someone where, you know, maybe they're disagreeing with you and you don't like it, you tense up. You know, how we communicate with others is always going to be, you know, how we were entrained. You know, we always want to be right about everything.
Get that point across. Yeah, I know that, you know, with my own, I've had to work through how, as a child, I didn't feel seen at some moments, whether it be, you know, other family members, cousins or something. They seemed to need more attention from whatever they were going through. And I felt like, you know, there was a perception that, you know, based on my family unit, that I was okay, but I felt unseen and unheard a lot, and I felt, so that really created, I think, the empath that I am, and I'm very internal, and I was also an only child too, so that, but then that my family dynamic changed where my cousins became, you know, my new brother and sister, and I welcomed that because I was an only child, but again, that not being heard or seen has really carried through in a lot of this reaction in me that I've got to push harder. I got to get my point across. I need this information to get out, and I still work on that. But now, you know, through these processes, and as you evolve into greater consciousness and presence and authenticity, you're catching them and identifying them in the moment, going, there I go with the not being seen and heard, and knowing that that's not really the truth, and that's being that authentic. I know that I'm seen, and I know that I'm heard, and that's just an example that came up for me. But there's lots of signaling that really, it does come in, you know, from childhood, and it kind of follows you around, and you may not know that it's there with you until you start doing some of these exercises, and you fall back on a memory from your childhood or a picture flash, and you think of something going, okay, what is that? I need to look at it, and then start asking yourselves the questions. And that was covered within, was that lesson 2, with the questions that you start asking?
Yep. I've got that in this PDF as well.
Okay. All right.
The first thing I do is ask myself, is this my shit or is this something else? Identify, what can I control? I can only control my thoughts, feelings, actions, reactions, and responses. That's it. I can't control others. I can't control the weather. I can't control how they perceive me. I can't control how they treat me. I can only control me. So developing that understanding is going to be crucial. And it really lets us off the hook. Because as humans, we've been programmed to focus on everything that doesn't matter, which is all the things that we can't control. Yeah. We can't control how other people think and act. We can't. So it's best to just focus on what we can control. This is a whole new language that we're learning. You know, we don't need to focus on the narratives and the drama. We can work through the drama by understanding and dissecting the narrative from the perspective of, you know, the soul perspective. You know, what is this that I'm dealing with? What's my trigger? How can I see this differently? What am I not seeing? And ask, please bring all known and unknown information into my field of awareness so I can better understand this. What's one thing I can change that I would change if I just knew what it was? You know, what am I most afraid of? What am I afraid of losing? A lot of times when you move right into, okay, what's worst case scenario? I've done a lot of work on this, and I have dumbed down the worst case scenario to being 3 things. You're afraid of dying. You're afraid of cracking up and going crazy. And being left with nothing and no resources or help to guide you through. So short of that, there really are no, you know, unless a gun is pointing at your head, you know, these survival responses are not authentic. You know, the difference between a thought and a feeling is huge. They're just thoughts attached to feelings that are attached to emotions that are attached to a belief system. And the belief systems were all created through duality, which created polarity. Duality is a false doctrine. I'm not saying that you need to look at everything as it's positive, but you have to flip the script. You know, why is this happening? Well, it's happening to help me understand this better so I can move forward, solve problems, and make decisions from my highest perspective. You know, but you can't do that if you're caught up in polarity and the emotion, because that brings in biased perspective. You hurt my feelings. She's being mean to me. You know, come on. This person did this. This person did that. Well, take accountability. Why were you in the situation to begin with? Maybe that person did this, that, or the other thing to you, but you were there. You showed up for it. You know, it's taking accountability. And with that, we have to eat crow. And that's okay, because that's what we're doing. We are desensitizing our nervous system to be able to handle the truth. And maybe the truth is you're not as smart as you think you are. Or maybe you really don't have all the answers. You only have your answers. So this is expanding out to the collective unconscious perspective where we create coherence, which is a field, you know, a 0-point field where we can tap into our highest potential.
That's so well stated. Does someone have a question?
I open it. Oh, it's not unlocked. I don't think I'll open it. Yeah, you just pull right there. Yeah. Okay.
All right, here we go.
Okay, you can tell me.
I left it the first couple of times and then got left.
What else do we have to?
No, just ladies in there.
Well, we need to be able to arrange everything.
No, just ladies in there.
Something. Just... I can mute. Okay. All right. Well, I think too that this really brings up a lot, and this is such great inner work. And again, it's sometimes when you're feeling a little stuck, you just, you know, for me, I know one thing that's very, very powerful, and I'm just like, and I'm feeling stuck and overwhelmed, and you just want information. And if I just release it to God, you know, higher power, you know, universe, whatever your beliefs are, and you release it and give that higher power permission to just intervene and show you. Give me, what am I not seeing? What am I not hearing? Where am I off point? What am I missing in this whole situation? All the questions that Jamie said. And be prepared to get an answer. You will feel something. You will get words. You will get image. You will receive the information. And then if you receive it and you still don't understand what it means, just continue to ask the questions more and go through your processes, because it is trying to come up. We are so conditioned as a society to suppress our emotions, because authenticity and having an emotional or a sadness and just trying to keep that from being visible, we have been conditioned not to feel and display that in a setting with people. And sometimes we do. Have you ever noticed that you've kept things so bottled up that to the point where you've dismissed it so much that it just explodes? You're either having a cry fest or you're in anger and you're reacting out on the most benign things because your cup has overflowed and you are in a tailspin. And then you have to sit and dial yourself back. You've got to be able to allow yourself to move all of this. This stuff didn't happen overnight. It could even come from the womb. Your childhood, traumatic experiences, the targeting experience is just the predator of all that was before it began. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Want to share?
Hi, this is Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Hi. What you said about being feeling like not seen, and I really resonated with that, and I realized that I actually literally made myself invisible. I would go up to a counter and people don't know I'm there. I think I was like tiptoeing, and it made me think about this belief that I had that, well, what's really going on with me right now is that I don't feel supported, and the belief that I had was like everyone else is more important than I am, and I mean, then I go back with that and I say, well, I had no boundaries, and then I was trying to take care of everyone else except for myself. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't haven't taken responsibility for myself. And so there's so much connected to this. But I guess what gets me triggered a lot of times is that feeling that I'm not supported, that there's no help. And even though I've been really spiritual in the past, and I know until I was targeted, it was like I started working through this. And I know that the universe supports me, but when I get these whatever physical sensations and the paranoia that comes on, then it just it goes out the window. And those breathing, the pausing and the breathing, I know I stopped breathing. So that's really helpful. And thank you both for being here and helping us through this.
So I've talked to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yes, it's very important work for us. We deserve this. Bottom line, we deserve this. We are just as, special from one person to the next. And in some instances, I think there is something so special about us. This is why we're targeted and attacked the way that we are too, whether it be because of our authenticity and our wanting to do the right thing and being, good people. There was something about us so intriguing that we are being monitored in a very heavily way. So don't forget that. They want to destroy the sense of self. They want to isolate, and they thrive upon the trauma and the pain and the suffering that we've had so that they can berate us with it and to use it on us. But we see the game. We understand that to get through this and move out of this in the grips and the chains and of oppression and the hooks that this technology has in us is to liberate ourselves by the inner work.
So we're also you're going to notice all the conflicting beliefs that you have when you start doing this work. For example, in 2005, I wanted to leave my husband for many years, but I had this unconscious belief, you made your bed, now you have to lay in it. So I couldn't even get to the point of reconciling the situation that I was in because of my conflicting beliefs. So I had to shut that belief down and then move forward. I've also talked to several people who are craving, to be around other people, but then when they're around other people, they're so agitated, they start fights. So it's like you want to be with other people, but yet other people turn you off. So that's two conflicting beliefs. And I also spoke to someone a couple of weeks ago where we pulled out that they are a people pleaser and do everything that other people want them to do, but then their trigger is when people try to control them. So that's a conflicting belief. You're going along with 99% of what everybody else wants you to do, and then that 1% you catch an attitude, and you feel like you're being controlled. Well, you allow yourself to be controlled because you're a people pleaser, and then you get mad when you get triggered. So it's not real. This is the illusion. The illusion is past and future thinking. We're stuck between short and long-term memory, past and future thinking, in temporal resets where we keep recycling over and over and over the same program based on a nervous system response we had whenever in childhood. Past life. You don't know until you figure it out.
Did anyone else have a comment or a question? I just want to say, too, be kind and gentle with yourself during these processes. You're going to learn so much about yourself and what you're made of. You will also learn just how brave and resilient you are to be where you are today because of these programs being used against you. And this work it's a beautiful journey. And it's so revealing about yourself and like the belief systems, because when we're born, we, of course, as a child, your teachers are your mother and father and how they respond and react to things, right? And then you have, okay, what is expected versus not expected, societal conditioning, right? So this process really allows you to see the inner, that independent, unique beauty of what you resonate with, what you do not resonate with, things that you may be carrying that you're like, where did that come from? Oh, well, that came from childhood. Does that really resonate with me now? Maybe I need to let that belief go. But challenging your beliefs and why you feel so strongly about things in some moments can be really telling of, just where its origin came from, per se.
Yes, and we will get to the origin. If you guys stick with this process, you will get to the very deep layers and step into your full potential. It's going to be painful at times, and it's going to be beautiful at times. But we're going to develop safe and healthy algorithms where you heal a little bit, expand, heal, expand. It's not a contest. It's not a race. We really do need you guys to read the material, because the next session we're going to be getting into building the architecture for coherence. And we're going to be adding in the probing, sensing, categorizing, and responding formula, which is going to tie everything together. And again, moving into your pain, that is the antidote. As soon as you move into it, the pressure goes away. I woke up the other night completely I felt like I was under attack. I just got up. moved into it, took a little pressure off. It lasted for a little while. Then I ended up having to pull in the frequencies and work with them. But then I was fine by morning. So, you know, you just have to stop, take the time, work through it. But eventually you're going to develop this process and it'll become innate, just like your autonomous responses are. You're going to automatically think, what's this sensation I'm dealing with? It's going to happen. Boom, boom, boom. This is like going back to childhood as a baby and reformatting the mind, rewiring the brain, exercising free will, and balancing out the nervous system is the work. So don't let confusion stand in your way. Just breathe everything out and just stay present. And eventually you will catch on. If you keep reading, listening, practicing, one day you're going to wake up and just start spouting this stuff out like you've known it your entire life.
I think that there are times where I feel that pressure and the pain of the ear and then the choking. So I'm like, in those moments, I'm like, okay, this is a fear response. Something is triggered. What happened right before that? Because I think this information stored in us, and I think they could set it off. And if there wasn't really anything that happened right before that, you know, you just have to keep your data mining, your digging. And because you cannot give this technology that power over you, you have the ability within yourself to dismantle it and reroute it, you know. And this is what this whole processing, because the triggers and the emotional reactions and responses is what makes this type of technology of mind control work against us, right? So we're going to trip the system. We're reprogramming ourselves to combat it, and that's what this combating series it does.
Someone asked the question, can you control the frequencies with your mind? I don't know if do you have that question?
It is, are you able to stop the frequencies with the rethinking?
Yes, absolutely. However, there's going to be a scale. So sometimes it's going to be overwhelming. You might have to pull in the big guns. You might have to go and do a sound healing. You might have to go into meditation. You might have to have frequencies on. You might have to repeat affirmations 1,000 times just to get yourself calmed down. But yes, absolutely, depending on the level of, you know, the trauma and how it's going to be, how long it's going to take you to pull out of it.
It's a central nervous system attack, and that
they're triangulating us. It's like they've got us on lockdown. I can feel it in my glands. It starts there, and I always know when I start with the glands, I always know it's coming. So I immediately do a reset, a nervous system reset. I'll start working with my glands, doing a sinus drainage to try to move the energy. Do a little massage on your back, get up, run around, hop in place, move.
Movement.
Just, you know, movement.
Yep. Water dissipates those frequencies if you're having like the pounding. Because I notice that sometimes when I'm feeling these attacks and then I put my hands under running water, I can hear it in my ear going da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So that water is helping it break up. You just have to experiment with these and reroute these, you know.
And sometimes you just have to sit with it. Like there's, in my bedroom, I have my computer and I'm hearing some like noise in there. And I just sit with it. I'm investigating right now. What is this? Where is it coming from? What's this signal? What's it trying to do to me? You know, a lot of times I sit in these traps just to see what I'm dealing with and just to prove that I'm not afraid. I am afraid, but I walk through it. I make myself.
These teachings are the kryptonite to these kind of programs because they need our emotional buy-in in order for it to be successful. So we have to rob them of that emotional buy-in because we're going to take everything that is being thrown at us and we're going to observe it and transform it and to something constructive for ourselves and our own healing. So we cannot allow that. It just gets to me that some maliciousness would take and steal trauma, fear, phobia, your traumatic events in your life to, douse you with it. And that right there is, I turn that into fire to break through the strongholds that these events have had on me and to release them and not need to carry them any longer. And it's perpetual. It's like layers of an onion. You're just peeling back the layers. It didn't happen overnight. It could be a one-time standalone event that they used to trigger you, but it's very deep. It's a deep wound. So you just have to peel the layers back, and that's what this work does, is help peel it back for release. You're going to feel a lot lighter and a lot freer as you do this more and more, and knowing that, look at it as when you're under attack, it's a fleeting one. We know that it's a cycle. It's a pattern. We know that we can get on the other side of it. We just need to start doing the work to get on to the other side of it.
Yeah. We always have to keep in mind that the only thing constant is change, and our feelings are not real. They're fleeting and they fluctuate based on many variables and factors. But it's up to us. When we start thinking situationally and we really start honing in on the ever-present now moment and focusing on what it is we're actually doing, we can find these things very easily. But again, emotions are not real. They're programs connected to timelines or inner child timelines and frequency modulation zones. And this reality field does not function like we think it does. Time is not real. It's a man-made concept. So everything is actually like we're dealing with situations. But because of the manipulation through the technology, you're not aware that you're in past and future thinking. You're in a temporal reset. So once we start pulling all this stuff out and seeing it for what it is, it's really going to make sense, and you become very powerful. Very, very powerful. And this is what they do not want you to know. We dismantle their systems. When you stop feeding that system energy, it collapses. It's collapsing now. It's already done. But, we have to show up and do the work. Usher in these new systems. We have to combat AI. We have to make sure we're not going to get caught up in that system.
Yeah, this is when you say we are building a new AI, right?
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
One that is, we're perfecting.
That's policing thought. Poli-Si stands for policing thought and systems. So.
And we need to.
Policing.
And we are that like a computer program, right? Because our whole experiences from childhood from birth to now has built out this program of how we navigate, perceive, react, our patterns. And so I like to challenge myself when I see myself stuck in a pattern going, I recognize it. I even sometimes have a giggle. Oh, there I go again. There I go around that mountain again. What can I do to change this landscape and this scenery so that I'm not running around the same thing again in the future? And that's really what all this is about. And again, this is not what they want. They don't want us to be healed. They don't want us to be liberated and free from our baggage that they use against us. And to me, every time I do inner work on myself and have a revelation, it's a win against the systems. And that should be your fire and your drive. And you're healing yourself in the process of it. You're finding out how strong you are. And then you really do find your voice. If you feel like, in my case where I didn't feel like my voice was heard, I know that was just an illusion. I was heard, but that was what I felt and was triggered by, thinking that I wasn't. And it's a wonderful thing. So this has been really, really enlightening. I really enjoyed this teaching. Anyone have any parting words they'd like to share before we go? And don't forget to journal. Start the journaling process. When things come up, date it. What did you feel? What was going on? Just go through all your notes. And then over time, you can refer back and you will begin to see the patterns of it too. Always know what happened right before that. If you wake up and then something you feel triggered from that, what happened right before you went to bed, all of these things. These are the details. These are the clues that help you with the puzzles that you're working through for yourself. Well, everybody, thanks.
Hey, Melissa, this is Simon. I just wanted to say thanks for holding this session for us. I want to say thanks for holding this session for us. And I've been in the middle of trying to meet another obligation, so I wasn't able to be as active, but I have been listening to it. And just thank you for the work that you're doing for all of these sessions. This is the fourth, I believe. So thanks. This is really helpful. This is really helpful.
So glad that you were able to join us. And next, how does this time work for everybody? Should we just keep this at an earlier time? I know it's Saturdays. It's tough.
It's fine. I mean, the time is fine with me. Even if I'm busy with the kids, I can usually kind of mute and listen.
Awesome. Well, everybody, thanks again. I really appreciate your participation today. I will be following up after the call. I will provide you a link to the video for today and the PDF of everything that was discussed that includes the meditation. So our next meeting is going to be on, let me bring up my calendar. So it will be on the 24th of May. So make note of that, and the week of, I will send out a reminder as well. So again, thanks so much for your participation, and I pray for each and every one of you. We've got this. Through our inner work, we will be victorious, and as we spread awareness all around the world. Thanks again, and God bless, and take care.